Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, Meredith, super pumped to have you on the Better Humanology podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
So every guest knows that we kick this show off on a Monday. We want them to have a great week. I want to have a great week. And how we do that is we throw down some challenges. So if you're comfortable, I'd like to get some challenges from you. And how about we start with a fitness challenge for the listeners?
For sure. I like to take a different approach here. I don't like to say, okay, let's everybody do like 100 burpees today. I really am about pushing yourself to the next level wherever you are. So whatever workout you're doing tomorrow, if you haven't already done one today, you can do this today, is just really push yourself to do another set or another rep or another couple reps, even if you think you're floundering and you can't do it. It's just about pushing yourself that much farther, because usually it's you're standing in your own way and you can actually do it. You've just convinced yourself that you're too tired. So my challenge to you guys is to just push yourself for another set of whatever workout you're doing today.
I love that. All right. How about a mental toughness challenge?
Ooh, this is a good one. So, deal with a lot of people that said they've done everything to lose weight or done everything to push themselves in business and make their relationships better. But I think the mental toughness challenge for everybody, and it might take more than a day or a week or even a month, is really to look at your own self and really be honest. Are you really putting in the time and effort that it takes to really achieve your goals? Really turn it back on yourself, because you're going to make all these excuses for everything else that's not working out in your life, but it's really up to you. You are the captain of your own destiny. So I challenge you guys to really look at what you're doing and really look at if you're really trying to achieve your goals.
Putting everyone's feet to the fire there a little bit. That's great. Okay. And how about a book recommendation?
I was torn here because it's the same author. It's Ayn Rand. And there's two books, The Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead. And those are my two favorite books. They're pretty lengthy, but they are a lot about being an entrepreneur, being independent, being an independent thinker, and being a go-getter. So I highly, highly recommend those books. Like I said, they are a little bit hefty and they will challenge you, but if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
And if you don't mind me asking just a little bit deeper, like what's one of the biggest takeaways you got from those books, kind of on your personal journey?
It really was, I started reading, and I've read them actually 2 or 3 times, both of them. And they're, like I said, they're pretty big, loaded books. But it really was for me about being an independent thinker, really not caring what everybody else thinks and going after really what you want to pursue in your life. Because there's going to be people all the time that tell you, you're doing the wrong thing. I can't believe you're doing that. Why are you doing that? And really, if you're going against the grain, in my mind, it's you're doing the right thing. So when everybody's telling you you're doing the wrong thing, you're probably doing the right thing. So
you're
really
probably
challenge
headed in the right
yourself.
direction.
Exactly. So really challenge yourself. And that's really what I took away from those books, is just be that person that doesn't care and that's willing to do whatever it takes to really achieve what you want in your life.
That's great. All right, Meredith, so we got the challenges out of the way. I really, really do appreciate that. But now let's learn a little bit more about you. If you could kind of share your background over the last several years, going back as far as you need to. Really, I jokingly say with every guest, if you need to go back starting from birth to now, that's perfect. But I would really love to learn as much about you and your journey to getting where you are today as much as possible. If you could, help me out and help the listeners out.
Definitely. I've always been an athlete all my life, and I grew up in an entrepreneurial setting. So my dad started his own business when he was very young, and I saw him grow his business, both the failures and the triumphs. And that's difficult as a child to watch, but it's also, I think, was extremely important for me developing my business for what it is now. But on the health and fitness side, like I said, I've always been an athlete, and I've always been a science geek. So it's a little bit of a broad spectrum there of me. But I went to college and played water polo at a Division I school and was on track to be a doctor. I wanted to go pre-med and be in public health. And I kind of sat down and looked at how long that would take me and how much money that would take me. And I decided that, I want to try to help people right away. So I did a hard right turn and did biology and bioengineering instead. And some people were like, well, that really isn't, how are you helping people with that? I was more on the science side. So I didn't do what most trainers do in the, physio space, but, I did work a lot in human biology and experimental laboratory things and really working to not just get my degree in that, but also be the best water polo player I could be as an athlete. So I took that time in college to use what I learned to try to make my college experience as an athlete a test tube. I tried everything. I did a bunch of different diets, a bunch of different training styles, and I took that and my knowledge from college and made my business svelte as soon as I left college. And it just started as a personal training business. I didn't have a gym. I wanted to do everything outside because I'd been in a gym for so long working out as an athlete that I decided I wanted to do something different. So it was almost like one of those outdoor boot camps before they were really popular. And it started growing into a lifestyle business and nutrition. And then I started trying to hire people because it was growing too much for me. And it just flopped as I tried to hire people. Nobody liked them. My employees were, not as dedicated as I was. And so for me, I decided to say, hey, how do I stop trading time for dollars? And how do I still give my clients everything that I want without actually having to work for 15 hours every day and seeing clients? So that's when I transitioned online. And now I've got a number of health and fitness products and they're doing quite well. But really the bread and butter and the Rolls Royce of what I do is a 6-week VIP transformation group. And it's really a hands-on coaching system that I've built to be almost 100% automated with still some personal touches. So it allows me to not only have high ticket clients, high dollar clients, but it allows me to give them the results that they're looking for.
Okay, that's awesome. And I've just been taking notes over here on, kind of some stuff I want to hit on. I really like your, I find it very fascinating, your journey of, kind of mixing science and being athletic and then also being an entrepreneur. There's a lot of things going on there. But I want to pick up maybe where you just left off about this VIP transformational experience that you're providing people. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What is the transformation like a full person transformation? Is it a weight loss transformation? What kind of transformations are we talking about here?
It's packaged as weight loss because I think a lot of people start that way. They say, hey, I need to lose 30 pounds. And, for me, when I'm talking to these clients, it is a 6-week like weight loss oriented group. But when I start talking to these clients and they say, I need to lose 30 pounds, I said, why? Why do you need to lose 30 pounds? Oh, I really want to fit in my jeans. So that's not good enough. Really, what's going on in your life that 30 pounds is really disrupting? And really, when you start peeling back the layers, it is their entire life that is being affected by not just their weight, but their confidence and their ability to connect emotionally. So it starts as weight loss, but really this 6-week transformation is a lifestyle transformation group where you're not just losing the weight, but you're regaining the confidence. And we kind of go back to those challenges I told you. I really have people look at themselves and say, hey, am I responsible for this? And most of the time they are. You took a while to get in the position that you're in, and you're going to have to dig your way out. And it's only up to you to do that. I can be a guide, but it's really about, like you said, putting their feet to the fire, because that's sometimes all that people need.
And I'm sure that you deal a lot on the psychological level throughout that transformation. How did you kind of develop, finding out, and just to tell you a little bit about my own personal coaching journey is kind of similar to you. Very mathematical, scientific background, and that's how I started to write programs. That's how I got into it. But what I realized over the course of time was the perfect program doesn't exist, mathematically, because there's that human element of people that are always going to struggle. There's mental toughness, there's commitment, there's all of these different things. How have you helped people through that mindset of, maybe someone who can't stick to something for more than 2 weeks to someone who does actually achieve a transformation? Because you and I both know marketing your products is one thing, but being able to actually help someone see the results is a completely other thing. And that's where businesses are actually built, is people seeing results over and over again. So what has that journey been for you, helping people on the mindset side of things?
It really started for me as an athlete. And I do want to put a disclaimer on this. And I don't think that everybody has the emotional intelligence to do this as a trainer or as a lifestyle consultant, whatever. Like, you really have to be self-connected and have gone through a journey yourself to understand where people are coming from. Like, I don't think everybody has that. But luckily, during college, I went through some hard times of really being an athlete and being challenged and wanting to go to school, but wanting to play well. And it really challenged me to look at my own life and say, hey, what am I responsible for? And as I started working with clients, I wasn't just, your typical, I live in Malibu, so I'm not a, typical spandex wielding, blonde ponytail step class teacher. I was really, really quite honest with my clients. And I told them, I'm like, look, you're going to see me 3 days a week, 4 days a week, but what are you doing outside of this? Because it's a hell of a lot more important than when you're seeing me. And so I really just started dissecting what emotional pieces were holding people back. And it was a process. I wasn't good at it in the beginning, but after working with hundreds and hundreds of clients personally, and then now thousands of people online, you see trends of really what is affecting people's lives. And you're able to talk to them as a human being, as an equal, and saying, hey, look, I can help guide you, but you're going to have to trust me and let me in a little bit. And it's really about building that trust and rapport. And that's really how the business has taken off, is being just brutally honest with people, because I don't think you see it that much anymore. And it's refreshing for somebody to get real honesty from someone who's trying to help them. And if they're not, then they're not ready for the transformation.
Yeah, and I can tell from just your answer on the fitness challenges of kind of having that +1 mentality of doing one more, and then also the mental toughness challenge of holding people's feet to the fire, making them be honest with themselves. You're very much into the mindset side of things. And the one thing I have seen is people taking it too far on the mental toughness side, or pushing people too hard or too far. Have you ever encountered that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I personally encountered it in college, just playing almost at an Olympic level in water polo. It's just, you can, there's a breaking point, and it's about being firm, but also empathetic, because everybody has different things in their lives that are going on that you don't know, and that they're not going to tell you necessarily, even if you're their best friend. And so you can't necessarily assume something, but you can pose certain questions to them and let them answer either with you or without you. But it's about it's about posing those questions and making people really look at themselves, rather than push, like, you need to do this. Why aren't you doing that? It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. Like, and it's not about that. It's about saying, hey, look, everybody's got circumstances, but are you being truthful? And then you leave it, and you let them do the internal work, because you can push way too hard, like you said, and then it ends up, people will close down, and then you've lost them.
And so you also do some business consulting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you know what it's like to push yourself mentally, and you probably know yourself very well, and then you know what it takes to push an athlete, and maybe where people would fault or have a fault. What do you see kind of as the difference in someone's mentality who's trying to grow a business, say your business consulting clients, and someone who's trying to achieve a physical goal?
There are not that many differences, actually. I think the biggest similarity is you have to be okay with failing. You're going to fail. whether you're in a fitness journey, whether you're building a business, there are very few people that nail it from the beginning. We're in the social media age where you see everybody from, 500 pounds to 120 like fitness model, but you don't see the in between. Or you see somebody with no business to a booming $1 million business, but you don't see how many sleepless nights they had and how many times they failed doing it. And so, if there is a difference, I think that with the health and fitness clients, I think it's about looking about things they hide from themselves, about really what it's going to take to really want to achieve their goal, if they're ready for sacrificing certain things that they, are hiding from themselves or from you as a trainer or from their family. And then on the business side, it's about being real about the time they're ready to commit to building a business and being okay with having some sleepless nights and having some days where it's boom and bust and being an emotional roller coaster.
So tell me how you got from, kind of this outdoor boot camp to, consulting for businesses today. What was that journey like to where you're able to kind of take a look at someone's business and consult and help them then make the changes they needed, all the way from the beginning? How did you make it that full circle?
I think for me, the Svelte, my health and fitness business is just one piece of the puzzle in my life. My husband and I also have a business called Sift Ventures, which we develop and find properties in Central and South America. And it's like, frontier land investing. And we've been doing that since our early 20s. And that really was just that entrepreneur mindset and spirit of traveling and seeing different areas and different businesses and buying land. And we've built multiple houses and we're, business partners in a lot of different land deals where we're building out, housing complexes and that kind of thing. So really it was a full circle for me in not only did I build my own business and see it from zero to, a pretty successful online business, but we also built something in our 20s that was, land investment of two crazy kids buying out a bunch of land and helping people develop it. So it was really like trial by error, a lot of failure, like I said before, a lot of learning on the job. And now I can go in objectively and look at somebody's business and say, okay, in my analytical scientific background, I'm very like A plus B equals C. I'm looking at their numbers. I'm looking at how they're executing, especially in the online marketplace, like what relationships you're building. So really it had to do with growing up, being entrepreneurial and starting a lot of businesses and also failing at a lot of businesses.
All right, I'm going to shift gears on you here. So say there's a nationwide curriculum implemented and the president calls you up and he says, you're responsible for one chapter of this new book that they're going to put out throughout the United States. So every single child in America will have to read your chapter and be tested on and pass before they can graduate high school. What would your chapter be about?
Traveling. My chapter would be about traveling and seeing the world in a different perspective, and understanding that not every one path is the same. Because, I find now that and I was a victim of it. I wouldn't say victim, but I was of the mindset that, okay, after high school, you go to college. After college, maybe get your doctorate or your master's. And after that, you get a job and then you get married and then you have kids. Like there's just this line that you're supposed to follow, right? Like that's what everybody thinks. But I think my chapter in the book would be about how there are so many different options for you, and you don't necessarily have to follow the same line that everybody else is following. And it is so incredibly important to empower young kids to learn that you can travel, you can do other things, you can see the world before you decide that you want to be a lawyer or you want to be a doctor or you want to be a dentist. There are different pieces of life that are so much more valuable and important than just jumping from school to school to school. You need life experience.
And do you think that that's something that people are seeking out less or more of these days?
I think it's, I don't really no, I think because I'm looking for it more, it maybe looks like more people are. But I certainly know, over the period of last 50 years, certainly I think more people are being entrepreneurial because it's hard to get jobs. And college is expensive and people don't want to be in debt. So there are a lot of different avenues now that I think people are pursuing. I think in my short lifetime, I don't know if there's been that big of a shift, but it's hard for me to look at that macro view, when I was in it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I find interesting, just having talked to you for the last, several minutes is kind of the status quo. It seems like you're very anti keeping things the same. Would you agree?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm anti, I don't know if I mean to be anti. I don't know if I would label myself as that. I think it's just, I've always been different and I've always, marched to the beat of my own drum. So I think it comes off as just, I've done everything very differently than most people have, or most people that I know have done it. But yeah, I guess I would say I'm a little bit anti straight line.
No, and I think that's great. I think it's that kind of mentality that has the power to change the world. So I think it's awesome that you have that mindset. And another thing that you're talking about is people kind of they have their own stories, and you mentioned people like kind of following the path of going to school, the next expectation, the next thing, and then even talking about people how to get over their own mental hurdles, kind of hiding from themselves, not being truthful and honest in their own answers. I want to dissect that a little bit more with you for a few minutes, and because I'm sure that you've seen that maybe in yourself or in people you've been working with over the years, is people kind of hiding from the truth, not being super honest with themselves. Going back to your challenge at the very beginning of the podcast, is that something that you have seen a lot of working with different people over the years?
Yeah, I see it. That is the one piece of the puzzle that I truly believe is the difference between being successful and being unsuccessful, is really looking at yourself and seeing if you're telling yourself the truth, especially in health and fitness and weight loss. A lot of people say, well, I've done everything and nothing works for me. I've done Weight Watchers, I've done Atkins, I've done Jenny Craig, I've done all these things. And I want to say to them, hey, look, I bet you all of those things worked, didn't they? They said, yeah, they worked. I said, did you keep on doing them? No. Well, so whose fault is it? They worked. You just didn't do it anymore. Why? And so it's that kind of mindset where people want to blame other things. And it's okay that they stopped. There's a reason why they stopped, but it's very important to identify that it wasn't necessarily the program, is they chose to stop. Whether or not the program was going to be long-term, successful for them long-term, they never would have known because they didn't do it. And so it's not just about being honest, and it's my job to help them develop something that is long-term, that's not invasive. But at the same time, I need to know that they're ready to pull the curtain or pull the shroud off their eyes and go, yeah, I'm ready to commit now 100%, where maybe I wasn't before.
And that's something I see a lot of in the business world, are people aspiring to be entrepreneurs or getting started. They look at someone else's success and they kind of point to one thing that person's successful for this reason, and they think they got lucky, or they think it's not possible, and so therefore they kind of rule themselves out of ever being able to see that success because they count themselves out. They're not being honest with themselves either. They in what they ultimately could do, their own potential, or they're not being honest in themselves, as you were saying earlier, like what it actually took that person to get to that level.
Right.
And do you have any kind of tips or advice? Because I know you probably work with people one-on-one. You help them, lift that shroud or the curtain. But if someone's just by themselves listening to this podcast right now and they're not 100% sure, maybe they've been telling themselves the same story over and over every single day, they don't even realize they're doing it anymore. Do you have any tips or advice for someone who, to be brutally honest with themselves? Is there anything that you can help any way you can help someone, maybe get to that honesty point in their life right now? I
think it's listening to things like this, and listening to people that are honest, and looking at and just stepping back. And it's hard because when you're in it day to day, and it's a lonely journey as an entrepreneur sometimes. Like, you don't have a lot of people to celebrate with. Some people don't understand what you're doing. You doubt yourself. Other people start to doubt you. And so it gets very volatile. And I think really to step back and say, okay, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. And this is what I believe is in my way. And really, if you have a friend or a business partner or even a spouse, let them look at that, because if they're even remotely close to you, they can smell your, they'll be able to smell your BS pretty quickly if they're looking at what you think is standing in your way. And usually what you think is standing in your way is not. It's something else, but you can't see it because you're in it so much. So really write down where you want to go, where you are now, where you want to go, and what you believe is standing in your way, and give it to someone who knows you and say, hey, and be okay with someone telling you that they don't think that's what's standing in your way. You have to be okay with being criticized sometimes, or getting constructive criticism from an outsider.
I think that's an amazing exercise, because I know, if people only listen to my podcast or read the things that I write, or, they might think that I'm this certain way. But if you really want to know who I am to my deepest level, you should probably go have a conversation with my wife for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Totally.
And she'll let you know, what I'm doing well, what I could be better at. I'm not superhuman, all of these different things. But it's easy if you're only catching someone on the social side to think that they're doing everything perfectly. So I think that's an amazing exercise, especially if anyone married out there, give it to your spouse and you're like, hey, is this accurate? And they're like, absolutely not. That would be a huge wake up call. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, and just don't get hurt by it. They're not ever trying to hurt you for the most part. They're just being honest, and that honesty from someone else and if you're not receptive to it, then that's a huge red flag that you're not ready to see what other people are seeing of you. And that's, you have to be okay with that, because you think yourself. But, our minds are very powerful things, and we will think up something, and you can think it and think it and think it. And then all of a sudden you think it's reality when it might not be.
What's one of the biggest challenges that you've had to come over, say, in recent history, last 5 years or so?
Last 5 years, I think it was really the transition of going from a personal trainer, quote unquote, brick and mortar, to transitioning into an online world and trying to navigate this space. I failed big time. I mean, I crashed and burned for 6 months to a year, not making any sales, really grinding it out, and questioning whether or not I could really do it. Questioning if I had the know-how and the resolve to keep going. And that was a really tough period of time, because my husband he's no longer a firefighter, but he was a firefighter. So he was gone a lot. I had a lot of time to myself. I was working at home, and it was lonely. It was depressing. And it really made me stop and think, can I do this? And I think it was, it wasn't the thought of, can I do this or not do this? It was my reaction to that thought of, yes, I can, and to keep pushing forward every single day, because it's not unicorns and rainbows all the time. You know what I mean? It's really difficult. And I think that transition for me was a real mental challenge that helped me not just get stronger for myself now, but for my clients, either moving into space or even my weight loss clients. Like, I feel like I've been through some very dark times, about how I felt about myself and what I could achieve.
Yeah, and I think everyone has those quit moments, but like you said, it's how you respond to that moment that makes the difference, because that doesn't matter how tough you are. Everyone's going to probably want to quit or back down at some point, but it's really your reaction to that. So
yeah.
What was your tipping point during that time period? When you're facing this, going from brick and mortar to the online world, obviously things are working out now. What was kind of your tipping point that did push you forward to continue on and keep pressing and growing?
It was the fact that I got pregnant, actually. So I'm almost I'm just about to have my first child, and it was the fact of wanting to build an empire for my kid. And that was it. It was saying, it's no longer about me. There's something greater, and I need to push because I want to create something for her. I want to show her that I can do this, that I can build this business. And really, that was a really big turning point for me. And I don't even know if it's because of her. I think it's because it helped me associate the goal with somebody else instead of myself. And I have my clients do this now. And I say, hey, you want to lose 30 pounds. Why do you want to lose 30 pounds? And they say, my jeans don't fit. And I think we talked about this before. I say, that's not good enough. Well, I'm really embarrassed about taking my kids to school. And I say, bam, that's it. So you're really embarrassed about taking your kids to school. And so your relationship is strained with them. So why don't you do this because you want to be healthier for your kids? And when you take it outside of yourself, it becomes like you don't want to let somebody else down. It's easy to let yourself down. It's really hard to let someone you care about down.
Yeah, I agree with that. It sounds like you have a gigantic why, attached to everything you're doing now, which is, like you said, a big piece in what you're doing with your athletes. And that's the same for me, is I try my best to get them to answer that question before we even start training. That way they always have something to go back to and point at when it is, they're getting through those challenging times or up against a wall in some way, shape, or form. All right, so let's shift gears now back to your athletic career. I would just like to touch on that for a minute. What was some water polo, correct?
Yes.
So that's a pretty tough sport, to my understanding. I've only played in messing around. I've never played like at a competitive level. What are some big takeaways you got from playing at the level that you did with the athletes that you did?
It taught me a lot about pushing yourself to that next level. And I think, you overdo it as an athlete a lot of the times, but it builds this incredible mental resolve. Some other big takeaways was, were teamwork, dedication, schedules. I mean, I am a scheduling nut now. It's not like I write down every single thing that I do every single day, but I was forced as a student athlete to write down the things that I needed to achieve in the week, whether like what assignments were due. And I carried that out now, where it helps me keep clarity because there's so much going on in everyone's life. And it's, I call it a paralysis by analysis. You're looking at so much stuff and you end up never doing anything. And so if I write down everything that I do, like I did in college, like I did when I was playing sports, it helps me organize my thoughts, gives me a to-do list. And it's like I said, it's not every little thing, but it's things that I want to achieve for the week or the day or the month. And I can cross them out and feel a little bit more at ease with what I need to accomplish. But other things I learned in playing water polo is just that you are a lot stronger than you think you are, mentally and physically. And you have the ability to get to the next level. It's just whether or not you're willing to go there. And so I think that's was a big lesson for me with my clients, is like, you can do one more set. Even if you don't think you can, I bet you can. And you're going to feel so much better that you did. And it maybe it's not even going to make a difference in their physical appearance, but it's the mental toughness that it's really changing for them.
I want to go back to that. You were kind of mentioning like a decision fatigue. We have so many decisions and you got super organized and you're able to kind of sift through that. But I think that in all honesty is a big problem for a lot of people, is they have too many options, too many choices, too many ideas, and they're not quite sure on which one to execute on or how to organize them. And you sound like a pretty productive person. Maybe that did come from your athletic career. But if you had to give some advice for someone who, or maybe you could just fill me in on your day-to-day productivity, like how do you go about organizing? You said you'd write them down, but like organizing and executing ideas.
I usually do it the night before. I will write down what I need to do for the next day. So it's like, it's almost, I forget who told me about this, but it's called like a brain dump. Like you kind of just write down everything that you're thinking, everything you need to achieve for the day or the week. Like if you do it Sunday, you could do it Saturday night, whatever, but I do it each night and I write down, what I need to do the next day. And I prioritize it by what's the biggest thing that's going to move the needle for my business. And for me, it's doing videos, like, X amount of videos for my clients or whoever my followers. And so I always have every day, I have it posted on my wall. It says audio content, video content, do it now. And so I always do that first. First thing is I always have that because I know that's what's going to move the needle for my business. And so I write that down every night. And then I write down things that I need to achieve, like, okay, email this person, make sure you go to the bank, this. And they don't have to be groundbreaking things, but I write the most down that I can. I cross it out as I go through the day. And most of the time I don't finish the list, but I take that list, refresh it. The things that I didn't finish the day before, I move to the top and you do for the next day. And it sounds tedious, but it really helps me identify because you're going to get like all these emails throughout the day and there's going to be people, you're going to be trying to put out fires and people, wanting your attention. But if you can always go back to something that is, that's written, like I need to do this first, it helps you from having 20 different tabs open on your computer and never actually accomplishing anything.
That's awesome. Are you a morning routine or evening routine type of person?
Morning. Hugely in the morning. Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. Do you mind sharing your morning routine?
No, not at all. So I wake up about 5:30 or 6 every day without an alarm. It just like I'm just awake. And then from there, I do have coffee first. I'm a coffee person. So I have coffee and I kind of go outside on my deck and just get some fresh air. And then I go over the list that I wrote the night before and I kind of just get mentally prepared for what I need to do. And then before I start executing that, I have a protein shake and then I take my dog for either it's a walk now because I'm too pregnant to run, but it was it's a walk now and a couple miles, come back, and then I get to work. So I start with the top of the thing on my list is always audio or video content. And I start recording or doing what I need to do there. And then it's right into client emails. And then, that's probably about mid-morning. I have, another meal and then I'll do a workout in the afternoon. And then it's just right back to work. And I'll probably work until about 7 or 8, depending on the bulk of the day. And then that's really how I kind of wind everything down.
All right, you sound like a very structured person. I'm very similar. I really like the routine there. And now,
yeah, I'm really structured.
Yeah, to be honest, that's the only way I could survive. And you're talking about writing that list. It's funny. I do very similar brain dumps from time to time. And if I don't do that, and like I sit down to work at the beginning of the day, like. It took me a while. It took me, a long time to develop this process as an entrepreneur, but like it took me a long time before I finally realized where I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I don't have like my biggest, like my one thing or like, my thoughts organized because I would work on something for like 30 minutes and then shift gears. It was like, but that's not how coming from the military before I was an entrepreneur, so super like structured and productive and like we're working on this, we're working on that. And it took me a while to hammer out my entrepreneurial schedule to be the same way. And if I don't do that brain dump, man, it's just like bullets whizzing around in my brain up there that I feel that writing them down really like calms the brain down quite a bit.
Yeah, it gets hectic, and it's not always like you can't do it. Every day is not perfect. There are some days where I can't follow it because I'm like out of sorts, and that's important for people to know too. It's like, I'm not like a robot. Like I have days that where I'm a mess, and that's just the way that you're a human, that's just the way it is. But for the most part, that keeps me in line and really helps me focus.
All right, that's great. And, I want to be mindful of your time. So I'm going to hop over to the quick fire questions and then the question of the show. But before I do that, I do want to ask you, is there one thing maybe I should have asked you or one thing that you want to talk about that I didn't get to?
I think we nailed it. I think the mindset piece is really important for people, and just really being honest with yourself. So I think, we did a good job, I think, of really talking about what I love talking about, which is that mental piece.
Awesome. All right, quick fire questions of the show. What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
Hardest workout I've ever done was 100 swimming. So if people don't know what that is, it's 100 is 4 laps of a pool. A pool is, 25 yards or 25 meters. So that's 4 laps, 100 times on a certain interval. And that was in college. And I don't know if you can fathom that if you're not a swimmer, but it took about 2.5 or 3 hours straight.
That sounds pretty brutal.
It was intense. It was a punishment. It was a punishment. We weren't doing it for fun.
All right. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Writing down where you are now, where you want to go, and what you think is holding you back, and giving it to somebody else to look at and talk about with you.
Great. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
A pull-up bar.
Awesome. Do you do a lot of workouts at home?
I do. Yeah. I have never had a gym membership.
That's great. Yeah. I haven't had one for like a decade now. That's great. All right. So what's your best advice you have for becoming a better human? And this is 100% open-ended.
I think that the best advice would be to really just look at yourself and make sure you're being 100% honest, because when you're 100% honest with yourself, you can be so much better of a partner, of a parent, of a friend. And so you can really take down all of those things that you might be projecting on other people, and be honest with yourself so you can be the best person for them.
That's great. All right, Meredith, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to want to learn more about you and your work, and I want to know where I should link in the show notes at End of 3 Fitness. So where can people learn more about you and what you're doing?
So my Instagram handle is at svelte_training, and svelte is SVELTE_training. Facebook at svelte training, and you can find my website is sveltetraining.com. Again, that's SVELTE training.com. And there's a lot of stuff there. You can always get a hold of me. There's a live help button. There's Facebook chats. There's all kinds of good stuff where we can connect.
All right, great. And so, yeah, guys, go check out any of that stuff. If not directly, then you can check it out in the show notes. I'll make sure there's a link to everything that she just mentioned. Meredith, thank you so much for your time and for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.